Hey guys, this is Greg Beast here for another Beast Lab. Today I wanted to go over stance variations for you guys, the angle in which you attack the ball, the pros and cons of each one, from a knee down stance only. Today we'll go over stand up at some other time. So starting off, when we go knee down, my stance particular has always been sideways to the ball to increase my angle and my ability to get over top of it with an open stance. My stance is way more open than most guys, and I have benefited greatly from that over the years, especially against guys with closed hips, but that's not the end-all be-all. So what I want to do is I want to go over the three staples of a proper stance. We call them the non-negotiables when you're an FOA guy, and you have seen over the years how our influence has created some of the stances you're going to see today. So before the FOA came around, up till about 2011, 2012, guys were taught to go north-south with their knee. They would, quote-unquote, barely hold the stick, so it was super light in their hands. And they would stand like this, and I don't know what the reasoning for this was, but this is what guys were taught. So as you can see today, nobody has this stance anymore for good reason. The knee going up north and south completely closes your hips off from the ability to battle for 50-50s. And what you were doing with this, if you were barely holding the stick, which means on the whistle, your smallest motor units are going to fire, and you're going to grip the stick first before you clamp. So you were losing a ton of time on your clamp. So what would happen was guys would go here, and then their elbow would kick first, they'd grab the stick, and then they'd clamp here. If you won, awesome, if you clamped before the other guy. If you didn't, and then there was any kind of 50-50, it was easy to beat you. You could either rake the ball out against someone like this because they're sliding this way, or you could push right through this, dominate the column, and go into the screw drill and completely annihilate this person. So even the people that may not agree with us all the time are now teaching their guys to point their knee this way, which is awesome. Okay, we're all universally moving in the right direction. Now, how far you turn your knee is based on you. I know we're all different heights, flexibilities, strengths and weaknesses, so I'm just going to go over that from here on out. So some guys like to have their knee up against the stick. I've never understood it, but I get it, okay? This is something that you want to do. Maybe you were taught this. Knee up against the stick closes your hips off. So your hip to the ball is now closed by your knee, okay? It doesn't mean you can't face off this way. It just means you're going to have a different strength and weakness pattern. So you're going to have more weight sitting back here, okay? And on the whistle, you're going to be focusing more on rolling the top sidewall over the ball. So if your whole thing is getting the sidewall over the ball and then punching into the ball here, then this is probably your stance, okay? The strength of that is that you will get the top sidewall over the ball probably really fast, which is great. However, the weakness to this is that because you have weight going back this way and because you're turning into it, you're using the back side of your shoulder to turn in this way, which means when you clamp, you're turning away from the ball. So you will not be strong on 50-50s. People can get around you and dominate the column on you. The other thing is, if you're going against a standing neutral grip guy, you are meeting the ball at the weak part of the plastic in the middle, not at the throat. So you will be a quick raker's delight. I've had success against guys who kind of do this by standing up and then rolling underneath and ripping the ball forward. So that's just something to be aware of. You will have a quick release over the ball though. So if that's your goal, then this is a good variation for you. Now, as we move further this way and we open, okay, we have guys now who, maybe closer to Trevor or TD stance, okay? Now the knee is up against the stick still, but now we're actually facing towards the ball, so now we're getting more north-south, okay? Because of this, you are able to get your throat to the ball and your top sidewall over the ball, which is great, okay? Still, the con to this is you will either have a false step. So if your goal is to get around the ball, because remember, we have to dominate on two different planes, right? The biggest thing is getting over top of the ball. The secondary thing is getting around. So in order to beat somebody on the whistle, you want to get over the ball. In order to beat someone after the whistle, you want to get around the ball and knock your opponent's leverage away. So the first thing is great. You're already going this way. Boom, you can get over top of the ball. That's great, okay? Now, the issue is because you need to get your weight down over top of it in order to come around, you are either going to move your knee out on the whistle and sit back, or you're going to kick back with your left foot and then try to get into the play. So if you notice that you have one of those two things when you video yourself taking your reps, the culprit is not your left foot. The culprit is going to be your knee, and you're going to want to open it up a little bit more if that's an issue for you. If you feel like you're good where you are, then by all means, keep your knee up against the stick and do your thing. Guys who use a CEO, this won't be as big of a deal for you because the whole plastic bends back right here. So you're actually able to push into it and lift. And instead of it bending on an oblique like this dual does, it's going to peel back and you'll actually be able to stab into the ball. It won't be as big of a deal for you. Okay? Now, final variation. We're moving now and we're opening this knee. So, my stance in particular, I like to open it up and I like to be completely sideways to the ball. And as you can see, I have a tilt forward on my right knee. So I like to tilt forward and I like to have my body completely sideways so that I can push off both feet. My knee is about 6 to 8 inches off the line. I don't like to be tight to the line. I like to be sideways and I like to let my forearm rest. And by putting my forearm here, my forearm is now on an angle towards the ball. So my goal is not to roll over the ball. My goal is to punch the ball stop into the ball. And then that carries me. If I win clean, great. I lead right to the pro hop and I'm out. If I don't win clean and I get a piece of it, that drops that left hand down and I immediately screw in and I go into the screw drill. Okay? So that's why I like that particular stance of opening my knee. The strengths I've always had, especially leading up into that 2015 season when I did really well, is my opponents all had closed hips. So I didn't worry about winning on the whistle because I knew that if we got 50-50 or if I had a piece, I could then beat them around the ball with relative ease because they had their hips closed to the ball and I was always the only one with it open. So that's the huge help to that. You will not be as quick maybe over the ball this way, but I've never cared about that because I don't want to meet you with weak plastic to weak plastic, especially with the way heads are moving now. They're getting flimsier and flimsier. My goal was always to get the throat to the ball on the immediate whistle. So that's what, the variations that you have here. You have a further up the field knee with a lot of weight here, turning this way. You have a closed off knee pointing more down the line. And then you have an open knee, which turns you totally sideways here. Now, the final part of this is our hand placement. So when you have your hands closer up, you're quicker over the ball, which is great. But you're using just your wrists, and we don't really use just our wrists on face-offs. The further down you go, the longer the lever, the more power you have, which is great. What I see are younger and younger guys holding the stick all the way back here, and now you're using your shoulder. That's not nearly as strong as using your chest and arm. So I think what a common rule should be for you guys when you're facing off, in order to have the good strength to power and speed ratio, is look in your stance, and wherever you are, your left arm should be going straight down. Okay, I think that is the proper spot for you. Because if you're reaching back, now you're pulling with your shoulder. If you're too far up, you're just rolling your wrists. If you have it straight here, you can lift, you can punch, you can do everything. So I think that's something you're going to want to look for. Go down in your stance, video yourself, and do you have a nice straight line going from your shoulder down to your hand? Throw some tape on it, and that's right where you want to be. You don't want to feel like you're pulling something because that's going to make you pull this way, and it's going to make you way slower on the initial clamp, and then you're not going to be strong because you're not going to be able to get down to battle for a 50-50. Okay, so there's your stances, your knee frequency, your knee angle, and then where your left hand is on the stick. Throw some tape on it, get that line going perpendicular to the ground to give yourself an optimal speed to strength ratio. Okay, next week we're going to go over something pretty cool. I'm not going to tell you what it is yet, but it'll be pretty interesting for the Beast Lab. So thanks a lot. Make sure you subscribe. Tell your friends to subscribe too. Follow me on Instagram, GregBeast32. Q the Beast is coming up on Fridays as well. Okay, have a good one, guys.